Hello, I'm Ryan with What Game Next. I'm also a Heraldor for Warhammer Champions TCG, and in this video I'm going to go over 3 rules interactions that cause misunderstandings to people new to the game, and go into detail why it works the way it does. So let's get to it. The first rules that we're going to talk about is Champion Quest Objective. Each champion in the game has one of 6 quest objectives in each of their 4 corners, and each one of those falls into one of 2 categories. The first category triggers when you play the card and before it enters play. Those are play an ability, deploy a unit, and deploy a spell. The second category triggers after the objective is satisfied. Those are deal damage, gain health, and remove a spell or unit. These 2 categories are important because they affect when a blessing might be flipped and its ability resolved. Here is one example from each category. First, we have Reaping Cairn Wraith in play on its 4th corner, which is a play an ability. When we play Brutal Smash, we complete the objective and cause the blessing beneath our champion to be revealed. In this case, it's Cloak of Mists and Shadows. It increases the damage of this champion's abilities by 2. We now finish resolving the Brutal Smash, which would normally do 2, but since we have the cloak up, it does 4 instead. For the second example, we replace Reaping Cairn Wraith with Crypt Infernal Courtier on its 4th side. Its last corner triggers on deal damage. We play our Brutal Smash. Our champion completes his quests on damage dealt, so nothing triggers when we actually play it. The Brutal Smash resolves and does 2 damage to our opponent. Now the champion's quest triggers and we complete it. At this point we turn Cloak of Mists and Shadows face up, but it's too late for it to affect the damage of the Brutal Smash. So with these 2 examples, I hope I made it clear how the 2 categories of quest objectives work and how they interact with triggers for quest completion. The second rules interaction we are going to talk about now that we understand when quest objectives complete is what can complete them. The rules specify that quest objectives on a champion can be completed multiple times in a turn. However, a single card can only complete a single objective on each champion per turn. I'm going to give you 3 examples of how this plays out in different ways. In the first example, we are going to try to get our Barrows White King on his 1st corner to complete some objectives. His first objective is deploy a unit, specifically with a Risen tag. We play our Skeleton Warriors with our first action, which advances his quest and then does 1 damage to our opponent. His second corner is play an ability, and his third is to deal damage. For our second action, we play our Brutal Smash again. The Brutal Smash completes the play an ability objective on our king, and then resolves and does its 2 damage. Unfortunately, because the Brutal Smash already completed an objective prior to this on its turn, it can't complete the deal damage objective because it's the same card. In the second example, we will get a little bit more complicated. We have a Coven Throne on its 1st corner. Our opponent has a unit across from our Coven Throne that we really need to remove. In our hand, we have a Soul Feast and a Deadly Resolve. As our first action, we play the Soul Feast on the Coven Throne. When we do, that completes the play a spell objective on the 1st corner. The second corner on Coven Throne is remove a spell or unit, which is perfect. For our second action, we'll play Deathly Resolve. That causes our Soul Feast to rotate. When it rotates to the second corner, it removes the opposing unit. Once it does, we stop and look for triggers and objectives. Unfortunately, even though the Deathly Resolve allowed us to rotate our spell, it's still the spell itself that removed the unit. Because of that, it can't fulfill the quest objective of our champion since it's already done so once this turn. We then go to the next line of the card, which heals us for 6 because we removed a unit. It's important to note that if we had waited till the start of our next turn and allowed the spell to rotate normally, or if it got rotated by our opponent on their turn by something like a Cursed Strike, it could complete the quest objective because the effect happened on a different turn than the one that completed the spell objective. For our third example, we have a Frenzied War Chanter in play on his 1st corner. In our hand, we have a Rallying Cry and a Brute Smashes. For our first action, we play the Rallying Cry, which completes the first objective on War Chanter, play an ability. This happens before we resolve the Rallying Cry because the objective, play an ability, checks for triggers when the ability enters limbo, but before it resolves. Now that we have rotated, we resolve the Rallying Cry, which allows us to deploy up to 2 units onto any of our champions. We deploy our Brute Smashes onto the Frenzied War Chanter. When the Smashes enters limbo, and before they enter play, we check for triggers. The War Chanter has a deploy an Auric unit objective, and the Smashes match that. So we complete the objective and rotate them. We do this because although the Rallying Cry already completed an objective on the War Chanter, it isn't the cause of the second quest completion. When we deploy the Smashes, it is causing the quest to complete, and since it's a different card than the Rallying Cry, it's allowed to complete it. The third thing we're going to talk about is the meaning of corners and how the text on cards interacts with them. For the first example, we are going to talk about a really simple card, which is Ravenous Crypt Ghoul. As you can see, he has one corner with an X in it, and 3 round corners with numbers in them, and 1 short line sentence on the card itself. The important thing to realize when you're looking at corners is that if it has an X in the corner, it means that you should treat the entire card as if it was blank, except for 2 exceptions. The first one is if it has any text such as this enters play. If it does, it means to do as much of that text as you can before the card has entered play. It does this from limbo, which is where all cards go as they are played or deployed, and where they enter play from. This ability should be resolved before we check to see if any of the first category of champion quest objectives triggers. The second exception is Last Stand. Last Stand always takes effect even if the corner has an X in it. If the corner does not have an X in it, the best way to visualize it is if all the text on the card was written on each of the 4 corners, with the rotational symbol in the text replaced by the number that happens to be in that corner. So in our example, on its second corner, the Ravenous Crypt Ghoul will deal 1 damage to your opponent, 2 on the third corner, and 3 on the fourth corner. The second example we will talk about is Unhallowed Mortis Engine. It's a unit with a single clunky corner and a lot of text. The most important thing to remember about clunky corners is that they will not rotate during the battlefield phase. Anything else can rotate them, even your opponent's cards. When they are rotated by an outside event, you do not do the text on the card unless it says otherwise. The Mortis Engine has an always-on ability that both increases the damage that your adjacent spells do, as well as reduce the damage that your opponent's spells do directly across from it. This ability is always on because the corner doesn't have an X in it, and so you treat all the text on the card as if it was in that corner. It also has a Heroic Act. When you spend an action to activate it, you do 3 damage to your opponent, gain 3 health, and then you rotate it. Since it rotates to an empty corner, you immediately exhaust it. This is the only way it can rotate itself. It can still be rotated by other card effects, however. I hope you enjoyed this first video of a series on rules clarifications and interactions in Warhammer Champions TCG. If you did, please hit the like button and comment below if there's a topic in the rules you think I should cover more clearly, and I'll add it to the list. If you have any additional questions, also please let me know below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you for watching.